So I am not any sort of academic or scholar, okay? And if I ever try social or political commentary, I mean, I don't have the knowledge, I don't have the education, I don't have the language for it, okay? But I know how things make me feel, and sometimes I try to express a small amount of that here on the Humanimal channel. And I'm going to try and produce a quick just saying now. I don't know how this is going to go. I haven't tried to think about what I'm going to say. I know, hey, yeah, that would be the intelligent thing to do. But really, I just want to try to put just a basic thought out there, okay? And that's it. I'm never trying to do anything more than that. So a week ago, a particularly heinous, devastating crime was committed. It's a crime that, yeah, we see a lot of this type of crime, but this has a special flavour to it that people are going to try to use and abuse and misinterpret, and it's actually not as dissimilar to other types of crimes of the same nature, except because of the perpetrator's political beliefs, it's going to be construed as something different other than being part of this very big, sad and sick picture. Already I want to start this again. Matthew Taylor Coleman and his wife Abby, they're a California couple with 2 children, little toddler Kaleo and a baby called Roxy. They were planning on a camping trip. They packed their vehicle together, and then Matthew left without his wife Abby. He took the children, he went to Mexico, and then he murdered his children. He used a harpoon gun, one that you would use to shoot fish in the ocean, to kill the children. He stabbed them with a stake many times over. And then he tried to cross back into Mexico, and he was apprehended there. And the children, I think, had already been found on the ranch that he murdered and abandoned them on, and Abby had called a second time to police, deciding to actually report him as a missing person, and he was stopped at the border, and there was blood found in the car on his vehicle's papers, I believe. This crime is going to be used by people to downplay concerns that citizens of Earth actually should hold. Because we've got these extremists and these extreme nutbags, you've got David Icke and his lizard people, you've got QAnon and the links that they go to when they're talking about things. All of the seemingly really mad stuff, what it does is it discredits the true concerns that you should have. And what's going to happen now, because Matthew Taylor Coleman was warped by QAnon, he had the delusion that his children were of the serpent blood through the bloodline of their mother Abby, and he believed that they were going to bring about the destruction of the world, and Matthew Coleman couldn't live with that. He thought that he was going to save the planet, and the ideas that were discoloring him and destroying him, came from QAnon and his attachment to them and the things that they put out, okay? And what'll happen is it'll be, see, look, they're all just crazy. They're deranged. Forget about worrying about totalitarianism. Forget about being the herded masses. Forget about being the despised excess. Forget about being the scum and the scourge. Because look at what this guy's done. He's killed his innocent children. Things, why David Icke is so successful in some regards is because he does take truths. Now, okay, he mixes it in with his beliefs of lizard people, and whether you think this is metaphor or whatever, it's something that you can't separate from his teachings, right? So it puts people in a difficult situation because you sort of, can I sort of go along with some of it but not the rest, and you tend to sort of step back, or you get very deeply mentally, emotionally involved like Matthew has. And I think you can see Matthew's regression as time went on in his posts, because when he's talking about the birth of his first child, he seems to have had for a long time this very strange language, these new age ideas. But by the birth of his second child, you can tell that it's twisted. There is something, there's a shift there. And rather than taking this terrible tragedy, these children, what a horrendous way to die. And the mother, Abby, she will never be free of the pain of what's happened. Her life, he's committed her to hell. Matthew's committed Abby to hell. What we must not do is say this is just the act of a mad person, someone, yeah, sure, he's delusional, paranoid, was he schizophrenic, or is this just how destructive QAnon is? Is this person perfectly rational and he's just got a belief system just like anyone? If you could say it's rational to have supernatural beliefs, such as in the Lord Jesus Christ or Jehovah or whatever it is that people might believe in, okay? It's just a belief system, you could say, like any other. And he believed in the lizard people. He believed in the snake bloodline or this lizard bloodline. He says that Abby had this blood and therefore his children were, and then they were going to be some sort of, it's kind of like, he's trying to stop it before the future happens, kind of like he's the Terminator, or Sarah Connor rather, trying to save. He's like the anti-Sarah Connor. So unfortunately, because these are two little toddlers involved, it's not just some man that went out and shot himself up in protest or out of fear. He took out his own children. And this should not stop you from being afraid, very afraid. Don't let it make you become complacent and say, okay, well, if there's anything I see anywhere discussing totalitarianism, discussing the stupid herd, discussing, the New World Order, I'll discount it. I'm just going to be able to live out my life however I want. Yeah, I've got decades ahead of me. I'm always going to be free. Yeah, because they're crazy. Look at the sickness. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Who knows what menace is behind a group like QAnon? Is it mischievous? What is it? I think often there is truth to things, right? And you can't forget that, because to do so is irresponsible for your own well-being. You always need to be alert, be aware. It's not hyper-vigilant, okay? This isn't very good. I can't keep recording this. I've got to get going. It's hard to say what I want to say. Tried making one video a while back, speaking my mind ever so mildly, and YouTube took it off the air. So ludicrous. You're not allowed an opinion. You're not. You're really not. You're not allowed to talk about your own ideas on safety, health. You should see what's happening here in Australia. It's serious, right? This totalitarianism. These babies shouldn't, their despicable murders should not be used as a tool to make you stay asleep, or to confuse you, to misdirect you. Their deaths should not be in vain, because I know how Matthew ended up where he did, and I purposefully, it's through, you can feel so helpless. You can feel so helpless, and you can feel a madness coming on just when you do realize what's happening in the world, and you feel there's nothing you can do, and we're in a very dangerous, we're at a tipping point, a very dangerous tipping point. And with Matthew, something's grasped one way, and it could go many ways for people, the different psychosis and delusions. But what sparks it isn't false, okay? But just to imagine your own children like this, yeah. And I'll tell you now, it is something that you can hide, your thoughts. People can be functioning schizophrenics, and people can function through psychosis, often being more shut down, or they mask, or, yeah. What I try to do personally is I have to just stop. I have to stay ignorant, because it's too distressing and painful to acknowledge a lot of the truth sometimes, right? Because you feel like, what can you do? And maybe what's happened with Matthew is he's past a tipping point in his mind, and it's really taken hold, and I think, got in these beliefs. I think because, it can be something as simple as His wife has brown eyes. He has blue eyes. Both his children have brown eyes. Now, people that have never been insane, and well, look, to be human actually is to be insane. You know, it's human beings with our ability, our level of consciousness, kind of, you know, I don't know. We are all insane. If you think you're not, go and think about it for a bit. We all are to a degree. We have to be. That's the human condition. But if you've never really been truly insane, if you've never experienced psychosis or these type of delusions and paranoid, schizophrenic symptoms, you won't understand it. But something as simple as they had the brown eyes would be a big focus for someone like Matthew and for someone in his frame of mind. Yeah, was he going back to kill Abby? You know, was his thinking, look, she could have more children. I need to stop this here. QAnon do have a lot to answer for. And that is true. And the irresponsible groups, but there's irresponsible groups acting everywhere for their own agendas. You know, if you think BLM or Antifa or anyone like that if they're not all corrupted in some small or complete way, you're dreaming. My advice is be afraid. Be afraid for your futures. You know, twice now I've been told, don't dance. It was 2 times in a row. No, you can't dance. You can't just stand up and move to some music. Oh, okay, just sit down, wear your mask. And I'm looking around and I'm seeing the millennials, you know, the good little possums, right? Sitting down at the tables, being good, compliant little members of society. And I'm ashamed as a Generation X. I can, you know, where are we all? What are we doing? What are we doing to everyone in Australia? We're silent. There is so much silence. They're lying down and they are saying, I'll take it. It's incredibly painful and disturbing and sad. And I think New Zealanders are doing the same thing. They used to march, you know, they used to stand up against things and make things happen. And the first thing I noticed when I moved to Australia was they don't do the same thing. And we are leading the way with totalitarianism here. We are leading the way with eroding human rights. As if people just aren't trying to project into the future what this might mean if you don't stop this now. What sort of life do you think you're going to live? Do you think you're going to live? I mean, look, some of the really strong propaganda, I think, I'm not sure where it's coming from, but maybe from QAnon, is that, you know, Hitler was a prototype. Okay? Now, who do you think the new persecuted beings are going to be? Just mull that over. Anyway, look, I'm not saying this very well. I wish I could record it again, but I've got to go, so I'm going to just stop. And yeah, I hope you understand what I mean. Do you see what I'm saying here? Look what I got. Do you see what I'm saying here when I say when I say this is going to be used to keep people in a slumber and to keep them unawares and to, don't let this dull your senses. Don't let incidences like this make you push back, to violently reject certain ideas because of the this heinous crime, the killing of children. I can tell you now, this is symptomatic of the very same things that have created the world where the West boys have gone missing. It's the same root cause that created the environment and the situation that grew Darian Brown, that grew Trevor Gernon and Monica Sherrod, and allowed for Cash Gernon to be brutally murdered. It is exactly the same petri dish. It is the same environment. We are here. The universe might seem intimate. It might be infinite, right? But we are here in our fishbowl, we're in our fish tank all together. It's all the same water. It's all the same sludge, okay? And we're all in it together, and it's the same thing, the same fright, the same sense of impending doom, the same disconnection, dissociation, the same sicknesses, with the parents bringing up these children, or the same influences, the same things that Matthew senses in the world and was probably reaching to find answers for. These are creating these situations. Forget QAnon. Forget the reasons that he gave. These reasons wouldn't occur if our world wasn't threatened, if our human existence, just as free people, wasn't threatened, okay? It's exactly the same thing, the world in which summer whales can go missing. It's the same world. Is it because there's not very much hope? There's fear. And a lot of us, we just block it out because the fear is so immense. It is really real. And who knows what the future holds. But if we all just are apathetic, it's going to happen sooner rather than later.